Hello and welcome to my channel In Search of Wonder. My name is Anne and this is my weekly wrap up. So I am getting a little early taste of my summer life here. Today is parent-teacher conference day, but I, as a specialist teacher, do not have to do conferences with the students, and neither of my children have conferences with teachers today. So I am footloose and fancy free, and the weather is absolutely gorgeous. So I am sitting out on my deck in the morning, just enjoying the sound of the birds, although you probably mostly can hear the sound of the traffic on the street over there, which is a pretty busy road. So yeah, gets a lot of traffic. You may also hear on occasion, oh, and I can see a bunny going into the neighbor's garden from here. He's awfully cute, but I hope that he doesn't eat all their tulips, because their tulips are still quite lovely. Mine have all kind of died, but their tulips still look really good. He's just sitting there contemplating life. So cute. Anyways, and I don't know, just before I started filming, there was a bird who was incessantly singing the Liberty commercial. So if you hear him, it's kind of amusing. Anyway, it's Tuesday morning, like I said, and I have finished a book. I removed the dust jacket, and so it's just a plain blue cover that is not very interesting. Here we go. You can see the title page. It's a little nicer. The Inheritance by Louisa Alcott. I don't want to say too much about it because we're going to do a whole group discussion on it. This is the group read for Alcott April, and we're going to do a whole group discussion on it next Saturday. So I guess when this video is going up, it will be this Saturday. So I don't want to say too much about it right now, but I'll give you a little background information on it. It was written by Louisa May Alcott at the age of 17. And two gentlemen, Daniel Sheely and somebody Meyer something, Joel Meyerson and Daniel Sheely, were reading letters in the Harvard Library, letters by to and from Louisa May Alcott for their book, Selected Letters of Louisa May Alcott. And in the course of their research, as they were going through the library, they wanted to make sure they didn't miss anything that was from Louisa May Alcott so that they could include everything that was necessary in their book. And so they came across this entry in the card catalog, because this was in the 80s when there were card catalogs back in the day, you know. And they found that there was a card for a novel, The Inheritance, unpublished, an autographed manuscript, meaning it was handwritten. Obviously, they were quite excited about this. So they went and looked, and sure enough, it was there. And so they read it, and they were like, wow, the world needs to read this. Not because in and of itself it is stellar literature per se, but it's always interesting to read the juvenilia of established and classic authors and to see the development and progression of their craft as they write. This book, it's interesting that she wrote it at the age of 17 because it's a very different story from her other kinds of stories that she wrote. Actually, it's very different from her children's stories because I guess very different is too strong. It's a little bit different because it definitely focuses on a romantic relationship. It's not a romance novel by any means. It's about other things going on. It's again a story of a family, etc. It's more young adult, I guess, in its tone than children. I guess that's mainly what I'm thinking. And when I say young adult, I don't mean like the modern concept of young adult. I just mean the age range that it's seems to be targeted to, which makes sense because Louisa May Alcott was 17 when she wrote it. So it's definitely written for herself, like, you know, for someone who was her age range. And it's definitely young adult Louisa May Alcott style. It's a very gentle story and very gently told. And it's also very much still in her vein of, as I was thinking about it, I came up with the perfect phrase. Side note, when I'm thinking about what to say about book reviews, you know, I always have these really eloquent, concise little speeches that perfectly sum up how I feel about a book. And then I get in front of my phone and I just ramble and hem and haw and repeat things instead of concisely saying what I was thinking. Anyway, I had this phrase in my mind that perfectly described Louisa May Alcott's typical style of writing. And it had something to do with her transcendentalism, her writing, other than like her potboiler stories, her money earning stories, her blood and thunder stories, were not necessarily in this vein per se. She was just writing to get money at that point and not really from her own vision of what she wanted her writing to be. But the rest of her writing was very much kind of a transcendental vision of what humanity should be or what they say could be, rather than an accurate reflection of realistic human nature. I think that explains it pretty well, how I feel about a lot of what she writes. So you have to understand it within that framework, and then it makes a lot more sense. Because the characters don't necessarily behave in the way humans actually behave. And they're very one-dimensional in that they are very, very, very good, even perfect. Like the heroine in this story is described so often as pure and sinless even, and perfect, which is obviously completely unrealistic for an actual human. Just in my mind, it's an unrealistic view of human life, but it is a vision of what life could be, what it could be, what it's not, but what it could be. So it's a very gentle story. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed discovering things as it went on. I'm struggling a little bit for rating it as far as what it is. I mean, does it belong among the echelons of great literature? I don't think so, but as something written by a 17-year-old who never intended for it to be shared with the world, I mean, it's very well done. I couldn't have written this at the age of 17. So I struggle with how to rate it because I don't want to be mean and unsupportive and not encouraging to young Louisa. so I don't want to give it like 3 stars. Technically, when compared up against other books, I would give it 3 stars probably, or 3.5. So I think I'm gonna settle on 4. We will encourage young Louisa and all other young 17-year-old authors with a good 4-star, because who knows what will be accomplished later on in their life. And Louisa obviously went on to accomplish great things and to become a favorite author of Americans for, well, I would say centuries, but century and a half since she passed away. So anyways, overall, very good book. If you are a Louisa May Alcott fan, you will enjoy it. If you enjoy Victorian era sentimental type literature, then you will like this book. It's a sweet story, totally worth reading. And yeah, so for the rest of this week, what I plan to read is I'm continuing working on Les Miserables, working through volume 2 for realsies. I need to get that done this week. And I am also finishing up, well, I'm about a third of the way through A Beautiful Disguise by Roseanna M. White, and should finish that this week as well. And I'm going to pick up Anne of Windy Poplars and possibly The Heir of Redcliffe, but I think I will want to read, definitely finish A Beautiful Disguise before I do that, and probably also finish Anne of Windy Poplars. Also, one other thing that I want to do in this week's wrap-up that I forgot to do in my last week's wrap-up is a check-in for the month. So we're at the middle of the month here, and so I just want to check in as far as my goals for the month and how I am doing. So let's talk about that for a second. So for my April TBR, first of all, I have the group read The Inheritance. Check, done. And then I wanted to read some nonfiction about Alcott or the time. And I read 2. I read Hospital Sketches, which was kind of hybrid fiction, nonfiction. And then Louisa May Alcott's Life, Letters, and Journals. Finished that last week, so check that off. Dia's prompt is to watch an adaptation, which I have not done yet, but I do want to do that. I may just end up doing the group watch. Well, I will be doing the group watch next Friday for The Inheritance, but I may just consider that checked off. I don't know if I will have time in between then to catch another adaptation, so we'll see. And then The Heir of Redcliffe would be a work that inspired Alcott. It's one of the books that was mentioned in Little Women, so I am curious to read that one. And then a work written by a neighbor of Alcott. I read Self-Reliance by Ralph Waldo Emerson, and we all heard my thoughts about that. So I am mostly done with all of the prompts for Alcott April, which I think is pretty good. I just have one prompt, well, 2 prompts really, that are unfinished, but the one will be, if nothing else, by next Friday. And the other one I may or may not get to, but I think that I have time. So doing really well with that. As for other things, I've really been focusing on that. The Les Mis group read, I am going slowly through that. So I would like to pick up the pace on that. And I'm getting to the good part. So I am, well, I mean, it's all good, but I'm getting to where the story's really kicking off here. So it will hopefully go a little bit faster. But it is a really dense book. There's a lot in there. And then for the Read Your Shelf challenge, the prompt this month is a character with red hair, and I am going to be picking up Anne of Windy Poplars here, but I haven't done that yet. And the Tea and Ink Classics reading challenge is to read an epistolary novel, which Anne of Windy Poplars checks that box. So I am doing really well, actually. Anne of Windy Poplars and The Heir of Redcliffe are the only other books left on my TBR that I wanted to get to. And I am able to fit in A Beautiful Disguise as well, so I may even have some more time for other fun reads. I am going away for a couple of days the rest of this week, on Thursday through Saturday evening. I'm not going real far, so I won't have a lot of driving time, and I don't know how much downtime. We're going to be with family the whole time, so I don't know how much downtime we will have, but theoretically I will have some time to read, so that will be nice. And today I'm off, but I have like 100 errands to run. So I read some this morning, but probably not going to get more reading done after this. Anyway, this is only my first clip of the week, and it's over 15 minutes. So that's kind of ridiculous. So I'm going to sign off for now, and we will see what I manage to accomplish in my goals for the rest of the week. Talk to you later. Bye. Hello. It is now Tuesday evening, and one of the errands that I had to run earlier today was buying a bunch of various presents, mostly birthday presents. And I already gave one to a friend of mine. So I didn't have time to make this clip earlier, so I don't have it to show you, but I went to Barnes & Noble and shopped around there for a while to find some gifts for certain people. And one of them was for a friend, and I got her Allie Beth Stuckey's book, You're Not Enough and That's Okay, which I have not read yet, and I really want to read it. I've been wanting to read it since it came out. I just haven't yet. But she really likes that podcast, Allie Beth Stuckey's podcast. And so I got her that book, and I was hoping she hadn't read it yet either. I didn't remember her ever mentioning it. So thankfully she had not read it yet. So I got her that. And then for my sister, I can show you this because I don't think she watches my channel anyway. And by the time that you see this, she will already have it. So I got this. National Parks of the United States, A Traveler's Companion. And it's like a journal. So she loves national parks. She, look at these end papers. It's like interrupt myself. She actually for a time considered being a ranger, and she interned at a park out west, but she hasn't gotten into that, but she still loves national parks and she wants to go to as many as she can. So here's a map of the parks. And then for each park, it has several different pages. One is like an information page, but then it has all of these things that you can put in there, like the dates you went and the weather and who you were with, etc. And then on the other side, it has these other journal type entry suggestions, like prompts and little blocks to write in. Like my favorite part of the visit was how I spent my time there. What is something new I learned? What would I do if I go back, etc. And then just blank pages where you can put in ephemera and pictures or notes, thoughts, etc. So they have those pages for every park. So I'm not sure that she's really that much into journaling, but I feel like she would love to have a record of all of her visits to the parks. And I feel like that's a really easy format, even if you don't do a lot of journaling. So I think that she will really enjoy that. And while I was at the store, I looked at their clearance books and I found this one for only $5, Zero Sugar Cookbook. So I don't know about losing a pound a day, but zero sugar sounds good to me, and it was only $5. So I'm always looking for cookbooks because, you know, it's really easy to just search online for a recipe and find one that fits what you have. But sometimes it's just so much fun to flip through a cookbook and be inspired for something, not to be looking for something specific, but just to be inspired and to say, oh, that looks delicious, I want to try that. Ooh, grilled pizza burgers, that sounds good. And then, oh, cranberry mustard mini tuna melts. Now, that is a combination I never ever would have dreamed of putting together, but somehow I feel like maybe it could work. Anyway, so I got this cookbook, so I am curious to look through it and find some fun recipes. Although I do feel like the dessert section is pretty tiny, which feels a little bit like cheating, you know, because like that's the main place where there's a lot of sugar, where you would want to have recipes that don't have sugar, right? A little bit cheating there, but anyways, it was only $5 and I'm looking forward to browsing through that. So that was my day. I need to go do a little bit of cleaning, but then I'm hoping to get some more reading in today. I have been on the run all day, and I've been listening to BookTube in the car on all of my errand running and traveling, but now I would like to get some actual reading done. But first, I've got to clean. So I will see you next time. Hello, it is Thursday evening, and I am in the beautiful Shenandoah Valley at a huge house, which you have just been seeing the pictures of, with a good portion of my rather large family celebrating the wedding of one of my sisters. And I'm trying to find a little nook and cranny to film a little clip here. So there are like different decks on this house with Adirondack chairs and picnic tables, etc., and gorgeous views. So I went out there and there were carpenter bees everywhere, like bumping into each other and buzzing and being very annoying. And so I thought, yeah, that's a little distracting. And then I saw this little porch here under a balcony, I guess. I don't know. And I just love the little view. But it has some nice seating, so I'll show you. See these lovely rocking chairs? The problem is that they are covered with spider webs. Clearly, were not used throughout the winter, and nobody has broken them in for the spring yet, and I'm not about to. So I found this little stool. So I'm gonna sit here. So, sitting on my little stool. I finished reading Something About a Disguise, A Beautiful Disguise by Roseanna M. White, which is the first one in a series. I forget the name of the series. It was part of the Protagonist Pope's book club, and several people ditched it early on, either because they found it highly improbable, or they disliked the main character, or it was confusing trying to figure out what was going on. But I like Roseanna M. White's writing, and her stories always kind of pull me in and keep me reading, and I usually like her characters. So I just kept reading. There wasn't anything in it that deterred me. So I just kept reading. And overall, I enjoyed it. But bottom line up front, I probably would give it like 3.5 stars. It was definitely not my favorite of hers. Not my least favorite either. I enjoyed it, and I'm glad I read it all the way through, but it won't rank up there as a favorite. Mostly because I found certain aspects of the plot highly improbable. And for something that's supposed to be, a realistic novel and a realistic setting and everything, just seemed inconsistent with time and place and characters, etc. So there were some things that I just found improbable, but I enjoyed the characters. She always writes really interesting characters. I will say another reason why I kind of didn't give it a full 5 stars is because I felt a little distance from the two main characters in the narrative. I think she was focusing on so many things about the plot and the unique position of the characters that you did not get as strong of a sense of characters and family as you do in some of her other books. In other books by her that I have read, I really feel like you get to know the characters very well, and you really get in their heads and you really understand them. And so that's what draws you into the story. And this one, I didn't see that as much. I didn't feel that as much. I wasn't as compelled to read it. So while it was enjoyable, I didn't have to force myself to finish it. I enjoyed reading it until the end, but it wasn't a huge favorite for me. However, the next book in this series, which just came out, and of course, even though I just saw the title, I completely forget what it is. Something about a scheme, a noble scheme, maybe, I think. The next book in this series, I really want to read because I am curious about the two main characters in that and their story, because they have like a history and a background, and it's never revealed in the first book because it's not about them, what the history is and what happened to drive them apart. But that is delved into in the second book, and so I am interested in that. And I think that being removed from some of the distractions that are bound up in the characters in this first book, I think will keep it interesting. So I do want to read it. There were elements of spy story to it. That may be also why it wasn't a huge favorite with me, because I don't love spy stories, but there was also like investigation and mystery. I don't mind that. Investigating things, like private investigator sort of things, I find interesting it's the spy stuff. And there's like a fine line between that, but spy stuff, not so much. Anyway, so I overall enjoyed it, and I finished that one, and I brought Anne of Windy Poplars with me, and I have Les Mis on my Kindle, so I'm going to be reading those in my spare moments the next few days, and also enjoying some time with family. So that is all for now. Talk to you later. Bye. All right, it is Saturday morning, and I am still here in Luray in the beautiful Shenandoah in Virginia, enjoying our last day here before we head home. And this will be my final clip for this week's wrap-up. I started reading Anne of Windy Poplars last night, and several chapters in, and I love it so much. Every time I crack open an Anne of Green Gables book, I am just reminded of how much I love Lucy Maud Montgomery's writing and how much I love the character of Anne specifically. She crafted like the most amazing character there in that story. So in Anne of Windy Poplars, she is away from home, and she has a job as a principal. That's her title, but it's one of those things where she's a teacher, but she's also a principal at the same time, which definitely happens in private schools for sure. I guess that's been true for a long time. Anyway, so she, it's about her working there, but it's told in epistolary form. So she is writing to Gilbert all of her stories and her adventures of things that happen while she's there. The reason it's called Windy Poplars is because that is the name of the house where she is renting a room, and And she talks all about the ladies who own the house and the maid who works there. And again, just the most fun characters. Lucy Maud Montgomery, her books are always full of unique and charming and delightful characters who just make you smile and laugh even when they're ridiculous. Anyways, and I am working my way through Les Mis also. I am not quite through volume 2 yet, although I have made really good progress. I am at the part where Jean Valjean is picking up Cosette to take her away from the Thénardiers. And yeah, talk about interesting characters. The Thénardiers in Les Mis are some pretty amazing villains. But in this book, the heroes are very, very good, and the villains are very, very bad. Very strong lines drawn between the good and the bad characters. You are not left in doubt in reading this book who is good and who is bad. Anyways, I'm enjoying reading both of those, and today we will be spending more time with family. I may finish this off with a little clip. We're going into the little town of Luray today. I'm going to a coffee shop, of course, and whatever else we find to do there in the morning before coming back and having a party, basically. So I will sign off for you now and talk to you next time. Bye.